Morning, good morning. This is the People's Matter Show, and today we have a special guest, Peter Oykhman. Peter has a really interesting background. He is a core chairman for CoreIMS, which is SciTech VR technology. Why don't we start, Peter, you explaining, because I think that you're going to do a better job than whatever I can do. Why don't you explain us a little bit more about the technology that you're developing and how does it work in a very basic terms?
Sure, sure. So what we do is we have only one goal in mind. So we're addressing an anxiety, and it's a huge kind of a subject. Anxiety. It was even before COVID, but after COVID for sure. And we're doing it using one of the latest technologies available. We're doing virtual reality. We do artificial intelligence in virtual reality. So the whole premise is, reducing anxiety with the latest and greatest technologies.
So how is it that you got involved in this technology?
Honestly speaking, before that, I've been doing logistics for about 20 years and I just got bored. In 20 years, I learned pretty much everything about logistics there is to learn. And I was like, I'm curious by nature. And I'm just like, let me see what other technologies are available. I found virtual reality and mixed reality. And then I started thinking, where it could be applicable. Uh, Traditional kind of is like it started all with gaming and all this, that's the most natural kind of application for virtual, mixed reality. And then I met actually my current partner, and we started, trying to explore different use cases for virtual reality. One of them being actually psychology, psychiatry, and we looked at this psychology and psychiatry. Again, I haven't talked to the psychologist, in my life, once when I was getting a divorce and I got super frustrated with that. And turns out that psychology and psychiatry is, I wouldn't say that they're opposed to the technology, but it feels like they're stuck in about year 2000 in terms of technology, which is about 25 years behind. And we're like, well, we definitely can do better. And using latest and tools is in virtual reality. And then we start exploring, and turns out that our initial assumption is correct. We basically start talking to leaders in the industry in psychology, psychiatry, and trying to explain to them what we're trying to do. And all of a sudden, they got excited, and they're like, well, probably there is something to it.
I definitely have to ask because this is very, very innovative. You say VR, like you said it before. Normally, everyone thinks about video games and VR technology.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now, I see that you have core partners and SciTech VR.
Hmm.
Can
Hmm.
you explain the difference between those two companies, or is it one and
Yeah.
two?
No, it's a two companies. So basically, I'm involved in both of these companies, and I'm running two of these companies. And essentially, honestly, what happened when we started SciTech, it's a startup, and we didn't have any money resources. So what happened was I already had a development team in a core partners, and we use this development team. We actually hired a new development team for virtual reality specifically. We started with Unity, then moved to Unreal, but we had a structure already in place. It was just easier for me than to hire. I was paying for everything anyway. So basically we created this separate group in core partners that's specifically for virtual reality, and separated this group.
Very nice.
So
So I see that you're also integrating AI. I mean, AI is the
mhm.
topic of conversation today in every single technology conference. How are you integrating AI with your SciTech VR?
That's honestly, it's one of the most touchy subjects. And I even wrote a couple articles and, create a couple posters for that. So there is a huge misconception about AI, through a general population. First and foremost, people don't understand that concept of artificial intelligence at this point in time it's nothing more than educated guess. So AI at this point in time is a educated guess. Now, when we're talking about psychology and psychiatry, we should be super careful about this educated guess. We're using artificial intelligence in a couple different ways. So first and foremost, we're using Gen AI to create the pictures for various. Look, we're using it for exposure therapy. One AI for exposure therapy, where we're creating these images for gradual exposure. So if you are afraid of the spiders, we could create this image that will have some spiders. Well, technically speaking, clinician will create this image, and then actually we'll send this image to a patient's headset. And we're also using it for mental wellness. We have two parts in our application: mental health, where we got this exposure therapy, and we have a mental wellness where you will go and basically do some breathing exercise, create your own safe space, that sort of thing. And mental health goes is essentially hand to hand with mental wellness, mental health, because you're doing this exposure, but the whole purpose is not to scare you, completely, but to teach you how to go back to normal after the exposure therapy. And that's where mental wellness and your safe space and the breathing and the guided meditation and so on and so forth really helps, because you got this exposure therapy anxiety that creates anxieties, and we will teaching you using all these techniques and creating your own safe space, individual safe space, how to go back to normal from that state, from anxiety state.
Am I assuming, Peter, that when you have an AI, is this a native AI where it's actually learning from the client and evolving as the therapy continues?
It is a native AI. It's a little bit of scary because it's never the same. So you're asking the same question, over is like in a couple days period, and you'll get a little bit different results because it's learning. But all these terms are not correct. So the whole hallucinating or learning, it's still guessing, because it has a certain information available. More information it will get, technically speaking, better guessing you got, but it's still a big question mark, in the sense that if it's a publicly available AI, you really have no idea who is teaching this AI what, because people are trying to break these AIs, and it creates a problem. This is why we're not really so much want patients to have access to that, but rather clinicians who could prepare this thing in advance, this gradual exposure, and then send it to the patient.
Right. So this is something that anyone can have access to, right? Is this something that is available?
Well, we're doing it. Our target audience is actually clinicians, so psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, counselors, and such. So who have some professional background in psychology or psychiatry.
So they are the ones that would be able to prescribe this treatment.
Yes, yeah. So they're working with their patients
Right.
on their anxiety. Again, our target is we're very specific. We're targeting anxiety, which again, it could be anxiety, generalized anxiety, it could be PTSD. So it's a whole group of different symptoms. But at the end of the day, it's a disorder, and it's anxiety in the different shapes and forms.
In your website, you talk a lot about CBT. Can you explain a little bit?
Correct. Right. So CBT, it's a cognitive behavior therapy. We have two modalities. We have a CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, and we have a EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And both of them we have in our application. So CBT is sort of it has been created, earlier, Aaron back around mid-60s and all this stuff. EMDR has been created by Dr. Francine Shapiro around 1995, and that's a bilateral stimulation. So the object is moving, left to right, and essentially ear to ear. That sort of a rewiring your brain in regards to your anxiety, trauma, and so on and so forth.
Right. So this technology is pretty interesting. Obviously, today's environment, especially with all of these social media and the pressure, I assume that this is for all kind of ages because kids in today's world they suffer a lot of anxiety disorder, addiction, and all that stuff. I'm assuming
Correct.
that this is very much the case for you guys. A lot of young people.
Uh, so we have pretty much all ages, and our goal to essentially to address all ages, and this is why our application is super simple. It's very easy to use because 99.9% of our customers are clinicians. They're great. They're psychologists, psychiatrists, but their computer skills are kind of a medium at best. So it has to be very simple. Talking about that is actually, again, there is a certain misunderstanding about virtual reality or mixed reality. I'm actually also co-chair in this association, VR ARA. And so we're getting together talking about technology. Virtual reality and mixed reality, it's still a mobile computer. So it has a monitor, it has a keyboard, and it has internet connection. So for all intensive purposes, virtual reality headsets, it's a mobile computer. It's just a different one, but it's still a mobile computer that it has a processor, memory, all the same stuff. So but again, people are looking at this like, oh my God, what I'm supposed to do with this? Well, put it on your head, and your doctor will push a scenario to you, and you will see what's going on there. But the alternative is actually before that, the tools that they were available for doctors, it was essentially imaginary exposure. So you would go to the therapist, and he will ask you to imagine something, and again, first and foremost, that's the images you are actively trying to avoid. So it's a little bit productive to ask you to imagine something that you've been trying to avoid. Second of all, doctor typically have no control over what exactly you're imagining.
Right. Right.
And what we're offering is, instead of guessing, we'll show you, and it's customizable images. Again, we're using AI. We got the pre-developed scenarios, but you could expand it with AI, and you could create these images using AI specific, because everything is very so. Like spiders in America are different from spiders in Europe, or spiders in Australia or Africa, right?
Right.
So apartments are different, trees are different. So everything is different. So yeah, that's why we're like, well, we'll give you a tool that you could create. Yes, not again, AI is still guessing, right? So you have to be very specific. This is why we're connecting you're doing prompting, but we're help you to do prompting using another AI. And then you could get it closer to what your patient is looking for. But it's really could get really close to what you're looking for. Now we're actually moving to videos, really like 360 videos, where it's not a still images but kind of moving parts and such. But on the other subject, when we start investigating the whole thing, we discovered that there is a shortage of clinicians, mental health professionals in the US. There is a shortage in Europe. There is a huge shortage in Middle East or Africa, and it's not getting any better. They're projecting that. I think it was a data from APA that they're projecting that by 2030 it will be 200,000 people shortage in the mental health in the US. And that's sort of it's supposed to be a good one. And I know that for a fact that we're working with some clinicians, they're not taking any new patients They're super busy.
Yeah.
And again, official statistic is horrible. So about 50 million people in the US have various forms of anxiety that has to be treated.
Yeah.
So it's not a nice picture.
Peter, the today's world, I think, because the way that we are connected through technology, through social media, in a lot of young people, and I say young people because back in the days, for us, for you, and for me, we didn't have computers when we were kids. We were not connected with thousands of people in social media and comparing how is my image compared with the rest of the world. And we were just having fun on, having activities and just doing our stuff with our friends. But now everyone is connected with thousands of people, which puts a lot of pressure, especially in young kids, and a lot of anxiety. Obviously, I see your VR. I mean, this is an amazing tool. Now, I'm assuming that it's more comfortable for younger kids to try something like this because technology is friendlier. I might be wrong, but is this something that they only can practice with a doctor, I mean, with a psychiatrist in front in their office, or they can take it home? How's that work?
No, younger generation definitely. Well, it's kind of a you touched on a very interesting subject. So younger generation, they're more in tune with the technology, but I don't think it's really helping. I think it's more like hurting because they got more anxiety than our generation. I honestly, I grew up in the Soviet Union. We had like one newspaper and one TV channel. So it was a different anxiety. But yeah, younger generation is connected to all these different devices, different applications. But yes, they're actually much more, it's much more easy. It's much easier for them to add just another device, VR.
Right.
It's very simple to use. We actually, for that kind of a purposes, we recommend the mental wellness more than the mental health. So this create your own safe space and add this breathing exercise. And, we also have AI generated music there. You could, create your own music in the environment and go there and de-stress. Again, it's much better because, you understand that you're essentially disconnected from outside world. You got a headset in front of your face and that's everything what you could do. And, you can do it anywhere. You could do it on the street. I wouldn't recommend to do it on the street, but you could do it at school. You could do it in the library and such. So it's actually very convenient.
So the student has to buy the VR, or the student, I'm sorry, the young, anyone, any customer will have to buy the VR. It's a specific VR, or they can just use their own VR that they have.
We work with any VR headset, even with older VR headset. VR headset was consistently, top 5 Christmas gifts in the last like 3 or 4 years. So you could get VR for Christmas and then use it for our application as well. Again, this is why I said it's just another mobile device. So it's like you are downloading application on your phone or you're downloading application on your computer. Same thing. You just can download another application on your VR headset and use it.
Very nice. I like that. Obviously, stress is one of my wife is always stressed. I am stressed sometimes, using something, and I can see how can it help you to focus into specific images and specific things to make you relax. So you guys are only targeting right now through professionals. Are you guys, I mean, you guys throughout the US, worldwide, what
Yeah,
is your
yeah,
strategy?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, worldwide. But I think there is a huge misunderstanding. And again, I'm not a psychologist, psychiatrist. I just talked to about 400 psychologists and psychiatrists in the last few years. So I think and read some books, and actually there is an excellent book about VR. One of the first one and the best one. Unfortunately, the author of this book, Elizabeth McMahon, she passed away last year. She was one of our advisors. But the point is, um, anxiety is natural. It's absolutely natural part of your life. Stress is natural part of your life.
Right.
You cannot avoid it. it's always with you. It's basically, it's getting bad when it's a kind of a circle. So basically you're running in a vicious circle. You cannot sleep, you cannot eat. That's where it's getting bad. But it's not that you can get rid of the anxiety. I've never met a single person who never had an anxiety in their life. I've never met a person that never had the stress. It's basically, how do you deal with the stress? How do you deal with anxiety? And what we do is we're offering an alternative and traditional way to deal with anxiety. Like, you'll go to, you talk to somebody, like, go for a walk or do gardening. Okay. And even a stupider suggestion, go meditate. I've been doing Tai Chi at some point of my life. It took me about 3-4 years to learn how to meditate. It's like, really? That's your suggestion? Go meditate? Especially when people are under stress or anxiety. That's, you have to really, really learn how to meditate. So we're offering an alternative that, essentially, put a headset, create your own safe space. And it's a tons of features. I was talking to one of the doctors, and we just went to Israel to meet one of our advisors, and we had a couple other meetings. Who was a psychologist, or he was a psychiatrist, actually, from one of the universities in Tel Aviv. And we started talking to him, and I showed him how to create this environment with using AI. And he was very skeptical, but about, like 10 minutes in, he is like, if I will go through the same process with my patients, they probably already will forget what they came for, because it's so exciting that you're creating your own environment in a virtual reality using AI, and you're playing with it. You could, use a different filters, you could use a different prompts. I can absolutely assure you that it's a creative process, that it's super immersive. It's very engaging, and that's just another way how to reduce your stress. I think it's not a silver bullet, not for everyone. We never claim that it's a silver bullet for everyone, but definitely could help. Again, we have a free subscription. We got a free trial. If you're interested, go try it out. It's a lot of fun.
So, Peter, I see it like, for example, yoga. Yoga is not for everyone. However, it works. It works for the
Mm-hmm.
people that do it right. Now, a lot of people wants to meditate, and it's not easy to meditate. But if there is a tool, a technology that can help you to, you know, breathe and focus into something else, and I would love to try it. Now, is there in, in your website, can you access, can you buy it? I have headsets, I have VR headsets that my kids
Yeah,
have, and I play those videos
yeah,
sometimes. So
yeah.
are you able to download from the store?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll send you a link. Basically, again, we're a little bit careful talking to individuals, so we'll send you a link. Uh, you can download it on your headset. We got individual subscription. It's like $50 a month, month to month, and you could absolutely play with it. 100%. We are a little bit cautious. People we're talking to, they have very specific forms of anxiety. We're always saying, and we have doctors, wonderful doctors who are working with. You have to talk to the doctor, because self-diagnosing, never a good idea. You have and a good example was, we're talking to one guy. He's like, I want to use your, I'm afraid of driving. I just give me your application. I was like, well, have you talked to the doctor? And I'm like, no. I was like, are you sure it's a fear of driving? He's like, yeah, like, okay, city or highway? Highway, just a highway or bridges or something. And he's like, well, bridges. I was like, great. Do you have a fear of heights? And he's like, yeah, I do have a fear of heights. I was like, well, maybe you have to start with that. Maybe you should talk to professional before, because if you're not addressing the right thing, it's not really a good idea.
Yeah.
But for mental wellness, absolutely, like, create your own safe space, do some breathing. We got a square breathing, we got all linear breathing. Create your own music. It's very engaging process, creating your own safe space, and actually it's completely, again, you are separated from your environment. So, you don't see your TV with the news anymore. You're not watching, you're not looking at your phone anymore. You're, basically in the environment and, doing your own stuff. And I think it helps. I don't know if you, so one of the things when we started doing it, we were like, well, it's a new thing. We went to Google Scholar, and we discovered there is over 200,000 articles written on the subject of virtual reality exposure therapy. So it's an illusion that it's a new thing. It's not a new thing. What the difference is, technology is different, because before you had two screens in front of you, that was your virtual reality. Before you had like a huge headset, like, which would, weight like 5-6 pounds in front of your face. Now it's much smaller, much easier to download, better quality, and that's the difference.
Right. Got it. Peter, this is so fascinating. This is a great technology that I think that has many applications for all kind of people that are not on, I mean, stress, like you said, mental health, phobias. In regards to, I mean, I see that you came from the Soviet Union or from Russia. I don't know what year. How is it that, what is your background? Engineer or?
I've been doing IT for almost 40 years now. So, which is, kind of a little bit scary. And I'm always joking that I started my IT career with punch cards. And so I had like, 3-inch floppies, 5-inch floppies, 3-inch floppies, all these other wonderful things. And I came here around 93, 94. So it's, over years ago.
Okay.
And it's kind of, I've been always an IT guy, different kinds of IT, but I know how to build a software. I know how to how to create something. I love it. I still love this process of creating stuff. It's very, very interesting, very fascinating, and creating software, creating companies. It's
Great.
anything that involves in a kind of a creating rather than doing the same boring stuff over and over again, sign me in.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I mean, the world of, VR combined with the world of anxiety and addiction and anger and mental health is pretty fascinating. I mean, what's going to be next for you? I mean, it seems that I mean, this is an amazing technology. What do you think is next? What's the future on this area?
I think, first of all, I think that the whole virtual reality and artificial intelligence is will probably will keep me busy for, for the next 5-6 years for sure. It's getting smaller. There is actually a new headset coming out. I think it's called like Beyond 2. That is about 100 grams. Is literally like, looks like a swimming, glasses. And So the technology is getting better and more interesting. AI, again, we're just starting with AI. It's a huge kind of a, so it's like we don't, I mean, it's what we do right now. It's probably 1% of what technology is actually capable of. It's one of the kind of a very, I don't remember who it was, but it's essentially he was explaining this, how much we know, how much we don't know. He's like, when we're children, our knowledge is like a small sphere, and what we don't know, what we know, it's like a surface of this small sphere. It feels like we have to learn just a little bit more and we'll know everything. But we're growing, this sphere is growing, and at some point we're really realizing that we don't know anything. It's just like so much more stuff to learn. And that's how I feel about AI. We're just like, it's our little tiny sphere, and we're like, well, it's a little bit more, and we'll know what AI is, how AI is working, what AI is doing. No, I think we'll be, learning about it for the next like 20, 30, 50 years. And same thing with virtual reality. The possibilities are like education. of any kind, where you could essentially, instead of just learning about it for the 5 years, go to virtual reality and try it. Doesn't really matter, chemistry, physics, engineering. So go try it out. It's the same thing. One of our actually customers is American College of Radiology, and I was talking to them about creating a tool where students could visualize these tumors in a body. Instead of just looking at the flat images, you could actually create a 3D image, and you could see how everything is connected, where it is, and what's going on. And so the possibilities are endless. And especially, again, a combination between virtual reality and artificial intelligence provides so many possibilities. So I guess it will keep me busy for a long time.
I'm sure. I'm sure this is fascinating, and especially on the health side, I think that, like you said, I mean, the possibilities are endless. I have a personal question for you. I mean, your journey is fascinating. I mean, you came from, was it Russia or the Soviet Union at the time?
Soviet Union. No, I actually, I grew up in the Soviet Union, and I left when it started falling apart.
And the Gorbachev era, no?
Yeah. He was right before, and again, it's Soviet Union was probably the most depressing thing. I know that a lot of people wouldn't disagree, but talking about anxiety. So when I graduated from high school and got accepted into college, you essentially knew what you're going to be doing when you are 60. And that's when you're telling this to 18 years old, that's probably the most depressing thing. That's like, yeah, when you're 60, this is what you will be doing. You chose your path. Everything is pretty much mapped, and you know how much money you're going to be making, if you will have an apartment or not, if you will have a car or not, what kind of salary you will be getting. For 18 years old, anxiety, that create, for me, it was a huge source of anxiety. It was like, really? That's it? Like, I'm done?
So, personal question. I mean, your journey is fascinating. I mean, coming from Soviet Union, Russia into the States, building your career in a very successful career. But let's go back 30, 30, 35 years from now when you came to the States. What would you tell the young Peter, 30, I mean, back? What would you tell him to do, or what kind of advice would you give him based now with all the experience that you have?
That's typically not the question I would kind of entertain, not to answer, but entertain, because what's done is done. I've been, honestly, I've been, I had two marriages. I've been divorced twice. I had three children of my own. I have a stepdaughter. And so it is what it is. I have no regrets. I wish I would spend more time with my children and my parents, but that's pretty much the only kind of thing I would say. Other than that, frankly speaking, what's done is done. Honestly, yeah, I've been stupid. I learned. I did something stupid again. Means that I didn't learn. So, but I honestly, I wouldn't. It's like, it's the same thing as like, what can you give to your children, right? What kind of a suggestion you could give to your children? Be self-sufficient. Go to school. And be self-sufficient. Don't live in my basement.
Yeah, thank you.
But I would honestly, all my experience is absolutely unrelated to my children's experience. It's like, I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was telling me that she had a cousin, and she was giving her some advice, and I was like, are you sure that you're helping? And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, do you remember Sears, right? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, that it's not there anymore. So your experience is kind of irrelevant in most cases to your children, because they live in a different world. So kind of like, what can I give to my children? It's like education. That's kind of tell them go study, be self-sufficient. Other than that, nothing.
I appreciate that.
We have our own experiences, and my biggest thing is I don't want to give my children my complexes, my fears, my anxiety. Talking about anxiety, they will have their own anxieties, they will have their own problems.
For sure.
Just
I mean, at the end, this show is about obviously learning new things, but for people out there, for common people, engineers or scientists or young people that are trying to learn and I mean, to explore and to understand new technology, new industries. I mean, you live in an industry that is very competitive. And what would you tell to a young engineer or scientist or anyone that is trying to build their own technology, what kind of advice would you give them in today's world?
well, first, I've been doing, I had my own business since I was like, 30 years old. I would say, don't. It's a lot of stress. But the second of all, talking about anxiety, you have to figure out how to deal with your anxiety, and that's probably the most important one, because if you are stressed, and I was stressed in my life, and I was bringing it to my family, I had some problems, with the companies and, businesses and everything. Learn how to deal with the stress. That's the best thing you can do for yourself and for people around you. If you are not bringing your stress to people around you, that's probably the best thing you can do. And that actually was one of my motivation when I realized that this technology could help with people with anxiety to deal with their anxiety and stress. I i see the potential that actually it could help people, including my children. So again, they have stress, they will have stress, they always have stress. It's a part of our nature. If you will learn and we could do something to help you to learn something, how to deal with the stress, that's wonderful. That's the best thing you can do.
Yeah. Well, that's a great advice. I think, like you said at the beginning of our show, I mean, stress is something that is just more and more among the everyone's life. It's not like it used to be. I would say the stress levels have increased dramatically in the last few decades with all technology,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But anyways, we learned a lot today, Peter. Thank you so much for being the show.
You're welcome.
I hope that maybe pretty soon we can have you again and give us another update of your technology. But I will be one of your clients. I'll tell you that. I'm going to look into it because there's a lot of people in my family and friends that are always stressed and they don't know how to control stress. So I'll be one of your clients as well. But in the meantime, thank you so much for everything that you do, everything that you contribute to communities, and glad to have you here.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank
see.
you for having me. Thank you.
We'll see you next time. And this was the today's People Show. Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.